Chapter 6 of IS5 brings in the idea of scatterplots, association, and correlation. So now we're looking at the relationship of two quantitative variables. This is motivated in terms of the year and the mean error in the position of hurricanes. We want to be able to predict where hurricanes hit. And the key idea of this is to think about a scatterplot. Scatterplot, again, is a review for you from high school. But the idea of thinking about how to describe scatterplots in relationships with data may not be so much. We really want to be thinking about the direction of an association. We want to be able to think about its form. And then we also want to be able to think about its strength. Are there any outliers or other points that really don't fit the curve? And those are going to be the kind of unusual features we want to be thinking about. There's lots of questions we can start to motivate, and that's something we'll be doing a lot throughout the semester. And there's also this idea here that probably is new to you, is the idea of a smoother. And here we've added on a smoother to the scatterplot, which can really be useful for a couple things. It can give us a sense of the patterns and trends, but it can also give us a sense of whether a straight line model might be appropriate. If we fit a smoother and it's straight, we probably don't need to kind of be thinking about more complexity to a model. We'll come back to that in a little bit. So the correlation is a unitless measure of association between two variables. And section 6.2 describes the correlation. There's a really useful figure, 6.6, that describes a little bit how this is put together, along with the actual formula for calculating the correlation. We won't be doing it by hand, but it's useful to get a sense of what goes into the correlation. The book is really helpful in terms of thinking about assumptions and conditions when we start using statistical methods. And that's true here for correlation as well. Here we need the quantitative variable condition to hold, straight enough condition to hold, and the no outliers condition. And there are several examples, as usual in the book, that talk about this in ways that will really help with those aspects. There's also a good summary of the properties of a correlation, which is something you should really focus on in terms of your notes. Obviously, you've heard this before. We'll go beyond it a little bit in the course. Correlation does not imply causation, but it does give us some sense of associations. So we have to be careful. We have to kind of be thinking about stuff. Remember back, we thought about re-expressing variables to try to get them to look a little bit more normal. There's an extended example here, which I would encourage you to be looking through in section 6.4 on straightening scatterplots and introducing something called the ladder of powers, which helps us to kind of think about re-expressions in ways that may be scientifically valuable. So this ladder and some of the examples kind of allow us to kind of think about a relationship that may look like this. We can re-express in scientifically useful ways to look like this. Obviously, there's always things that go wrong. Don't let that happen to you. There's a nice chapter review here, and really thinking about the idea of scatterplots. So what's new in terms of R? Well, we have a function now, gf_point, which will allow us to generate scatterplots, and that works pretty well. We can go ahead as well and then add on a smoother. And so here's a nice example of that, where we're looking at the wind speed as a function of the day of year, and we're adding on this gf_smooth, and that will go ahead and give us this gray line in here that actually starts to see what that relationship looks like, to see there is a little bit of a time trend to this as we proceed. Throughout, again, we're starting to make judgments in 2 dimensions and then move beyond those to 3. Happy stats!